living, does that ever tire out your vocal cords?
Yeah, I mean, well, that's the great thing about this is, I did, 25 minutes on Wednesday, and I did, a couple of podcasts yesterday, but I didn't do any shows. So I just got to chill last night. I really slept too much, because I'm on Central Time. So I fly here, and then I stay up all day, and I was basically up for 23 hours. And then I slept, but I felt like I really needed to catch up on sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
right?
And then I leave tomorrow.
Yeah, you're right when you get used to everything.
Yeah.
And
I'm ready. I'm ready to go.
Cool.
I like coming to California, but I don't know. I'm not that into LA.
I don't care for LA either.
Yeah.
I lived down here for about 6 months, and that was good.
Yeah.
That was enough.
Yeah, it's a mess out here. I mean, I was walking the streets today, and it's like as you get on down to where Jimmy Kimmel's at, it's like it gets a little better.
Yeah.
But this area, I'm like, this is LA?
Right.
But I was, I'm staying at the W, and I was on top of the W and on the roof yesterday. And from the roof, yeah, I mean, it's like, oh, what a beautiful place. You know what I mean?
Well, about 10 minutes before you came in here, did you hear all the sirens up and down the street?
No.
I was talking to my dad on the phone. There's a bunch of sirens. He's like, you being chased out there? And like 15 SWAT cars, like big armored tank truck looking things are going down the street. I'm like, wow. I think they got far enough away. I think I'm good here, but...
Yeah, they made some kind of announcement in my hotel last night, like over the intercom of the hotel, which comes into your room.
Oh, weird.
Just some weird thing. I feel like if there's ever a fire in a hotel, that I'll die in that fire, because I've been in many hotels where the fire alarm goes off, and I'm just like... I'm in my head, I'm like, oh, fix it, get it. I just assume it's broken, not that there's a fire.
Yeah. That happened in college sometimes. Like, the alarm would go off, and it's like, you get in trouble. They come and see that you're in your room, and even if it's drill, you got to get out. We set it off one time on accident with a fog machine.
Oh, yeah.
And then we all got evacuated out to the quad, and we're looking up in the window, and we knew there was no fire. It was our fog machine, and... we're like, please don't go in our room. Please don't. We're looking through the window, and sure enough, you see the police go into our room and find the fog machine, and it turned out okay, but we just like watched it in slow motion. We're going to jail tonight, everybody.
Over a fog machine.
Yeah. but
luckily you didn't.
We did not.
Yeah.
But Dusty Slay, thanks for doing Nick's Vancast.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Wonderful. We're here in LA. Netflix is a Joke festival.
Yeah.
Dusty Slay and Netflix, just synonymous now.
Yeah, big deal. Yeah, I mean, yesterday I was doing a lot of Netflix as a joke radio stuff for Sirius XM, and feels good. Feels like I'm really in the Netflix club.
That's amazing. That's gotta feel great.
It does feel good.
Yeah, and we got a helicopter over us now, so something's really going down.
Yeah, it's pretty constant around here.
That's the thing about the Vancast. You get a lot of ambient noise, but it's just part of the experience now.
Yeah, we're in a van. Yeah, I mean, you'd have to be off in the wilderness to get no sound.
Yeah, I don't think I've done anything too far out. Maybe one or two, but do we wait? Do we go?
Well, this is a nice van, though. This is a really nice van.
Thank
you. Got the wood trim in here.
Yeah.
It really gives it a good feel.
You can kind of smell it sometimes.
Yeah. You got the flannel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is really the look. I was like, I kind of was tired of the flannel. Then I started the podcast. Now I'm like, and now it's the backdrop. I can't change that.
Yeah, this is a nice bed. Everybody that I've ever known that lives in a van, the bed seems like pretty weak every time.
Yeah, this is a queen size bed, I guess. Yeah, I didn't build any of this myself. Just saying.
Okay.
I'm not handy like that. But I wanted to ask, like, now we're on the air.
Yeah, the helicopter's not going away.
That's not going away either. Sorry, everybody. But Alec Parent, a friend of yours, comedian, also living in his van. Well, I don't live in my van. I'm a phony. He does it legit, right?
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's, he opens for me a lot, and it's like, it's a big selling point. A lot of clubs nowadays don't want to put comics in hotels, like features, people opening for me. So he can just roll out in the van and just stay in the van. Actually, we stayed I did a club in Lowell, Arkansas, and the comedy condo is a cabin. And it's decent for the headliner, but for the feature, it's a pretty bad room. And he just was like, I'll just stay in the van. So when you choose the van over the place they provided for you to stay, you know it's bad.
Yeah.
I've stayed there many times, but I also don't have a van out there to live in.
Yeah. Would you consider it? I feel like it'd be cool to travel and do comedy. And
I always wanted to do something like this.
Yeah.
I think this is great. I mean, now I'm married. I have a kid. I don't think they want to do that.
Yeah.
I don't know that I want to do that with my wife and baby,
Sure.
but this is great. I do think at some point, even now, I might like to do this.
Yeah.
Just even for comedy, I know that you get the tour bus. Tour bus is nice, and the big benefit of a tour bus, I think, is that you have somebody drive you.
Yes.
But I think this would be really great. I mean, even if it was like me and my wife just on a road trip, we could take turns driving.
Yeah.
I think it'd be great. And this van, this is like, what is this, what do they call this kind of van?
Oh, the type it is? A ProMaster.
Oh,
Ram
okay.
ProMaster.
Okay, this is not what I'm thinking.
They
But
have Sprinter vans.
Sprinter van, yeah.
Those are even more expensive.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy.
but this is nice. It's
thank
very
you.
nice.
Thank you. But
I did not dress for Van Life podcast, though. I wore a long sleeve shirt here.
yeah, I'm so sorry.
And I wore... it's like California weather gets to me because it'll be hot.
Yeah.
Like this morning, I went for a walk at like 7 a.m. and I was like, it's kind of chilly out here today. And
Changes.
So
It changes quick. And I'm from Santa Cruz. Have you been there before?
I don't think so.
It's up in it's like an hour and a half south of San Francisco. And
Okay.
it can get pretty chilly. It's I'm from like where the redwoods are and stuff.
Oh,
so
yeah.
you got the beach 15 minutes away, then we're in the redwoods.
Yeah.
I liked growing up there, but
Well, California seems so nice, but then, there are parts that you go to that are not that nice.
yes.
Like San Francisco, I was there. They had very weird weather.
Mhm.
Like in the daytime, it was super hot. At night, it was actually cold.
Yes. They call it Carl the Fog rolls in.
Okay.
They have a name for him. And then it gets cold. Yeah. You go to like a Giants game and their stadium's on the waterfront.
Yeah.
And the wind just hits you all night.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But and then driving from Santa Cruz or San Francisco area down to here, you do Highway 5 for 6-7 hours and it's just flat and brown. And have you been to like Yosemite? There are really cool spots out here.
No, I never do the parks.
Yeah.
I would like to see them, but I'm also like, I get to a city and I'm like, I could go see things or I could just stay in my hotel.
Yeah.
And then a lot of times I just pick staying in the hotel.
We got
And I never regret it.
You're working, right? And you got to rest up. And
That's what happens, right? I try to go do things, and then I'm like, I feel all worn out, and I'm like, oh, now I got to go back. Now I actually have to go do work. I think if I were working in the daytime, at night, I could be like, all right, let's go do some stuff.
Right. But yes, getting back to the Netflix Club.
Yes.
It's amazing that you're doing all this awesome stuff. Dang helicopter, right when I want to talk to you about Netflix. So the intro to Netflix was the stand-ups, would you say?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I have, there's a friend of mine. She works for Netflix as a joke radio. And I met her doing the Bridgetown Comedy Festival in Portland a few years ago. And I've done various things with Netflix is a joke, which is, I don't know, they have some weird names. Right? Netflix is a joke is hard to say every time. Netflix is a joke radio. And it also seems like I'm making fun of them.
Mm-hmm. I thought it was a joke account one time at the very beginning.
Yeah. But so I had done some various things. I recorded a thing for SiriusXM that gets played, on the Netflix is a joke radio station. And then I've did interviews with Fortune Feimster and Tom Papa on their podcast that's on Netflix is a joke radio. But yeah, the stand-ups is my first time actually being on the platform.
Yeah.
On the big platform.
It's an incredible episode. Crazy awesome set.
Thank you.
You're hilarious.
Well, thank you. That's something that I worked on that set for years. And then a lot of those jokes I wasn't even doing anymore. But I was like, I like those jokes. And I feel like they never really got good representation on a big platform. Like I did Jimmy Kimmel in 2018 and I did a lot of my trailer park jokes. And I just had prepared for Jimmy Kimmel in all the wrong way. I had no idea how to prepare for a late night, and I did it all wrong. So basically, I would practice the set in the middle of a longer set that I'm doing at clubs. So when I got to Jimmy Kimmel, I had never opened with those jokes before. So, they were crushing on the road, middle of a set. But opening, I had never done it. So when I came out and opened, it didn't hit the way it had been hitting. So it took me the whole set to really, really make it, make people laugh. So I didn't bomb, but it wasn't the good representation that those jokes deserved. That helicopter is like right above us.
I think there's probably something crazy going on. I'm a little worried about this town.
There's some wild stuff happening. That's what I thought. Last night when I was in my hotel and they made some announcement over the intercom. I was like, and then like I'm on the 10th floor. All the Netflix parties are on the 12th floor. I don't have much interest in parties. I went to the one on Wednesday, but I felt like they had like a drum circle up there. Like they were just banging on the floor. And I even felt like the 11th floor got into it at one point. I mean, it was just stacked, banging. And then once that was gone, then there was announcements. I was like, I don't know if this is a band or if there's chaos going on in the hotel, but I'm not leaving the room.
Find out what it is. Not a good enough drum circle.
No, and then I bought some CBD from a shop here in town, and that sent me on a wild ride.
Okay.
And so I was just trying to get sleep.
Yeah.
And I felt like it was just coming in waves.
What a California experience this time around.
I know.
For those late night sets, is it also difficult because you're curating content for like a short time? It's like 5 minutes sometimes, right?
Yeah, I mean, it is hard, but it's like now having learned that from the first experience, now I have a better idea of how to prepare for it, One is, you just try to get those short sets if you can. But that helps when you have some status in comedy. Like once you've gotten yourself to a level where you can go, hey, can I, come to the club and work out this 5 minutes? It's easier after you have a few under your belt than, when you don't. Yeah, I mean, I just open. When I go on, if I'm doing a late night and I know that I'm doing a late night in a couple of weeks, when I go on the road, every set that I do, I'll just open with my late night set.
Oh, that's smart.
So that way I'm like, I know how it opens. And I know how to, and that way if I come out over and over again and I don't get laughs, then I'm like, all right, I can't open that way.
Okay. Interesting. So you're really figuring it out as you go around.
And it can be hard because you come out with what you're saying is your best 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got to follow your own best 5 minutes.
That's crazy.
So I do an hour on stage. So I'm like coming out with the heat, and then I got 55 minutes left to follow myself.
I've seen you. You do a lot of heat. You got a lot of heat.
Yeah, I feel good. I'm in a good place. Yeah.
Comedy, and this isn't a comedy podcast per se. I've been talking to a lot of comedians lately, and I think it's fun. And I was telling Todd Glass, and I was like, I feel like comedians are just really compassionate people. Like, that's my perception. It's your job to make people laugh and have a good time. And it's such a dynamic career because you do late nights, you do clubs, you do different places on TV. How do you prepare for such a dynamic career like that?
Well, I just try to write jokes that I think will work in any space, for any crowd. But it's like, if you're doing something, if I'm doing a corporate, I got like about 7 minutes of weed jokes now. So I'm like, if I'm doing a corporate event, maybe I don't open with 7 minutes of weed jokes. You know what I mean? Feel it out a little bit. And I'll ask some questions with the event, like, how do you feel about this? How do you feel about that? Mm-hmm. None of my stuff is dirty, but I got a few edgier things in my set right now. Not edgy for anybody else, but edgy for me.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, it's not that edgy, but for what I'm usually doing, it's a bit, I don't even talk about sex, but the word sex is in the joke.
Okay.
And I'm like, I'm not even that clean of a person, right? Like, I cuss all the time in my real life. I try not to, but I do. But on stage, I just try to have a respectful set because I had people come up to me before and they're like, thanks for having a type of show I can bring my kids to. Now, these are grown kids. I don't mean small kids, but they're like, I can bring my kids to and not be embarrassed.
Okay.
Or people bring their moms or dads to my show, and it's comedy they can all get into. And that's what I want. I mean, there's nothing worse than if you're sitting around with your family and you're like, oh, I want to show you this great comic, but like you're desensitized to how filthy it is. And so then you show your dad and as they're saying things, you're like, oh gosh,
oops.
Yeah, this was the wrong thing. And it's like, like Tom Segura on his latest special, I was watching it with my wife, and it's like, he had a whole thing about like banging your mom or something. And I was like, this would be the wrong thing for me and my mom to watch.
Oh, yeah. My parents, I'm like listening real quiet before I show them. I'm like, okay, I can show. Nope, I can't show them anymore.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So I just want to have the kind of comedy that you can show, but also that you can enjoy, right? There's plenty of comedy that your parents would enjoy. There's plenty of comedy that you would enjoy, but how much comedy for people is there that they can enjoy the same way their parents can?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, because sometimes if it's super clean, it's cheesy.
Okay.
You know? I mean, I know a lot of clean comics that aren't, but there are a lot of clean comics that's like, okay, that's cheesy. Because it's like, I don't think about writing clean. I just think about, all right, I'm not going to write dirty, if that makes sense.
Sure.
I'm not like, oh, let's write a clean joke.
Yeah.
But if I have an idea, I go, all right, well, this is a little dirty. What can I change to where I still have this joke, but it is more palatable?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, absolutely. You reach more people too that way. I had somebody leave a review on this podcast, and they said, I came here to listen to this one specific episode, and I like dip out the volume when people cuss.
Yeah.
And I don't care if people cuss. The same thing. It's like if you're listening with your mom in the car and it's like, oh, it's just like,
Yeah.
you don't want to have them be like, I got to change it. You got a kid in the back or whatever. And so they left a comment like, came here to listen to this one episode, and the cutting out of the cuss words was just annoying. I couldn't get through it. And I'm like, well, that's all right. That's the best, worst review.
Yeah, life's so hard, isn't it? Oh, I can't hear the cuss words.
It's like, really? That's not a bad 1-star review for me.
Yeah, life's so hard for people. Oh, I just want to hear some cussing. Like you can't turn, like that's what, I've had people react as if being clean is like a thing that everybody's trying to do. And I'm like, no, everything's dirty. Mm-hmm. Everything's edgy. Everything's over the top. That's why I like doing comedy this way. It's like there's no longer any shock value. Like trying to be a shock comic is impossible. Like what's shocking anymore?
Interesting.
You know, we have everything. Nothing's shocking anymore.
Everything on TV is,
Yeah.
You get desensitized, and then,
Yeah, I have wool socks. I'm drinking a hot tea. I feel like I'm going to stink this place up.
Do you want to take your socks off?
No, I feel great, but I'm hot.
Do you want a cold drink?
Yeah, maybe I will. I turned down the water, but maybe I will take
Back
one.
off.
Because I could just
grab whatever you like.
Because, is it okay?
Yeah. So I was at Bert Kreischer last night at the Greek.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'm looking at that stadium, arena, whatever you call it, and it's like, I can imagine, again, I'm not a comedian, that the preparation for that, when you take into consideration things like crowd work, for example, when you're looking at 6,000 people in front of you, has got to be different than when you got a 200, 300 room. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I've done a few rooms. I opened for Jeff Foxworthy at the Fox Theater in Atlanta, and that was 4,500 people.
Wow.
I do the Opry. No, maybe it was 6,000 people at the Fox, because I do the Opry and it's 4,400 people. And yeah, I mean, I just think that you can reach a place where you do enough things like that to where you don't even really think about it. I mean, I guess each time you do a new venue with more things, I guess you would think about it, but I think that if they're there to see you, it really doesn't matter how many people are there. It's like, this is really great.
Yeah.
Even if it's 20 people, if they're all there to see you, it can be really fun.
That's awesome.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if there's, 6,000 and they're not there to see you, it can be a real challenge. I mean, I did about 30 minutes in front of Jeff Foxworthy, and I felt like the first 10, I was like trying to get the audience on board with what I was doing. And then I did get them, and then it, became really fun. But it's like, I wasn't really worried about it because I'm at a place where I'm like, I'm confident in what I do. The coming to LA, it makes me the most nervous, I think. And I don't know why, but I did the improv on Wednesday and I had a great set, but I was just so weird about it the whole time. And I just feel like that people are not going to relate to my material. When I shouldn't think of it that way, I should think of it as this is something different that they've not heard.
Okay.
Instead of being like, I bet they can't relate to this.
I see.
I just want everyone to know what I'm talking about.
And then if you are like trying to get a crowd on board with you and you have prepared material, do you switch gears? Do you stick with what you're doing? Do you deliver it differently? Like, that's got to be a little nerve-wracking too. You realize that mid-set and you're like, shoot, I got to get these folks back. Yeah,
if I'm doing a shorter set, I got plenty of material to switch up. But if I'm doing a longer set, what I'll do, especially if I'm doing a weekend, I'll change the order throughout the weekend if it's not going well. Like if I'm doing Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and I go out on Thursday and it crushes, I'm like, all right, I like that order. I'm going to keep that. I may add in a joke here or there. but I like this order. But if I go out on Thursday and it doesn't do well, I'm like, okay, it's going to be fine, but let's switch some stuff up. Let's open with something different. Let's try to ease into some different stuff, because I have some jokes that work great at the beginning, but some jokes are best once the audience has got to know me a little bit. And I think that's the thing about getting famous, right? And I'm saying that I'm not famous, right? So, but getting famous, the audience now knows you. Like coming out on stage, they already know you.
I see.
And I think sometimes that can make like the great comics less funny, right? Because, I don't know, this is just me figuring, but it's like when you come out and the audience is already, they like already know your story, they're on board with you, they're like, oh yeah, it's like a relative that you just know real well and they're real funny. But if that relative were to get up and do stand-up for strangers, probably not very good.
Well, that's something I've been thinking about a lot again, talking with comedians, is that I know it feels so great when you say something and then you get that laugh and that great reaction. And
yeah, nothing like it really.
Yeah, even if I'm in a room of people and I say something that I either, had this great line and a interaction and you feel the room kind of erupt a little bit in laughter. Is that different or difficult then when it's your job and people come to a show and it's like, entertain me, make me laugh? They're ready for you to try.
I think it is in the beginning, but it's like, no, that's what we're there for. So it's like, I like that. I used to like opening for people because, especially if they don't know me at all, it is part of the challenge. And it is a lot of the fun where it's like, all right, the audience doesn't know me at all. So I'm about to go out there and win over all this audience. I'm about to take people from not knowing me at all, probably thinking I'm not going to be funny, to crushing the room.
That's got to be great.
Yeah, and then when you move to headliner, you're like, all right, now I'm on the poster, my name's out there. The expectation is that I'll be funny. Whereas if you're an unknown feature, kind of the expectation is that you won't be funny.
Oh.
But when you're the headliner, it's like, all right, you are funny.
Better be.
So there's a new pressure. But I just think as time goes on, you just learn that flow. And now I prefer that. I like the headlining spot. I like being able to roll out, kind of mess around for a minute before getting right into a set.
Was it like you making jokes with friends as your intro to comedy and saying, I want to do this as a career? What was your intro?
Well, I mean, I've definitely always been that. I've always been trying to make everyone around me laugh. That's the interesting thing about comedy for me, is it helped me to be like, I don't even know that I'm that funny in normal situations now, unless I'm with my friends. Because I feel like I've got that outlet now where I do have my spot to go be funny. Okay. So I don't need to be funny all the time. It's almost like there's this need in me to get laughs, right? So, but now I have this outlet where I get to go make hundreds of people laugh a night. So I don't have to try to make everyone in my life laugh.
Yeah.
Like if we go to dinner, I'm not like joke, 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 unless we're friends, and then maybe I am. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Jared Free, he'll match with someone on a dating app and they'll say, are you funny? And he's like, I don't know. You tell me. It's like, even if you're a comedian, doesn't mean that you have to be funny all the time.
Yes. Yeah, and it's like, I don't know, it's a better quality of life, I think, to not feel like you need to be funny all the time. But that's how I felt all growing up. I was like, I would... The first day of school, I would walk into my new class, whoever it would be, and I would see people and I would be excited if certain girls were in there because I'm like, oh, I'm going to be making them laugh all year. I mean, that's my thought in my head. Uh-huh. And that was always fun. But now I'm like, oh, no, come see the show if you want me to make you laugh.
Okay. You know what I mean? You got to pay for it now.
Yeah, I mean, I may be funny, but come. Yeah, I've been writing them. Come pay for it.
Yeah. So was it open mics, or what was your introduction when you, again, kind of realized that was your thing? You love making people laugh, when you're like, I'm going to go for this a little bit.
Well, I never thought that I could do it as a job. It never crossed my mind that comedy could be a job. I knew there were comedians, but I didn't know how they were doing it, and I didn't even think that was a thing that I would ever be able to get into. So, but I moved to Charleston, South Carolina, and I took some improv classes just for fun. I didn't know anybody, and I thought, well, this will be fun. I'll just do some stuff on stage. And then from there, I started meeting people, and I got into, and we had no stand-up comedy scene, but we had a little bit of comedy happening. So I kind of got into it slowly through that. But even, I did comedy for probably 4 years before thinking that this could actually be a way for me to make money, even though I didn't know how I would do it. I thought, well, I had won a contest. I won $1,000 in a contest, and I thought, all right, I could do this. And then I won that same contest again the next year, and then I was no longer allowed to compete in the competition. And then so I moved to Nashville and started figuring out how to work the road, and then, was making some money, but wasn't sure how this was going to be a living. Mm-hmm. But I just thought, I'm working the road. I'm making this amount of money. I figure the headliner's making this amount of money. If I can just get to headlining, because what a lot of people don't realize is that there's a whole world of people making a living doing comedy that no one's ever heard of. Like people that are not famous at all are out there working the cruise ships, working casinos, working gigs, all over doing corporate events, all over the country, probably the world, but especially all over the country, that make a living doing comedy that no one's ever heard of. So I thought, if I could just do that, then that's better than working the jobs that I've been working. Mm-hmm. So if I can just make a living doing this, I don't care about fame at all. But, then I would, I'd get into, but, it's hard to get moved up to headliner. Even if you're really good, it's hard to get moved up. So you start doing other things. I started doing comedy festivals and stuff like that to try to get in front of the industry people. And then that's what happened for me. I did a Laughing Skull Festival in Atlanta. I met, it's a longer story. I did Bridgetown in Portland and then met some people from JFL, Just for Laughs. But then a year later, they saw me again in Atlanta, and I was invited to do JFL. So I did that, and then 2 weeks later, I did The Tonight Show, and then I got management agents, and then my manager said, how much do you want to work? And I had never been asked that before, and I was like, I don't know, just fill the calendar. And since that time, it's been full.
Wow. And what year was that?
That was 2018. So,
okay, wow.
So mid-2018. So since then, I've worked just about every weekend, with the exception of, some time off for COVID, and I ruptured my appendix.
Okay, wow, okay.
It's all good. We're fine.
We're good now. We're in a van.
Yeah.
In 100-degree weather now.
Yeah.
It feels like it. What was the late night show back in 2018? I
did Jimmy Kimmel first.
Is that the one here on this street or no?
It is on Hollywood Boulevard here. Yes. Yeah. So I did Jimmy Kimmel on my own. When I did Bridgetown in Portland 2017, I met people from JFL. And they invited me to audition for Just for Laughs Unwrapped. But I had a manager at the time, different than what I have now, and they didn't realize that. So they were like, oh, okay, well, you can't do Unwrapped. And they were going to fly me to New York. So I said, well, I can't do it. And they were like, well, you can audition for Wrapped, but we won't fly you here. You have to get yourself here. So I was like, okay, well, I'll still do it. So I drove to New York and went up, did the audition, didn't get the audition, but the booker for Jimmy Kimmel was there, and she booked me for his late night. So I did that, and then, later in the year, I did Laughing Skull Festival, and then my first set that went really well was The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon.
Okay.
I did that in 2018, and then again in 2019, and then nothing in 2020, and then again in 2021.
Wow, that's got to be like a whirlwind.
It's amazing. I mean,
incredible.
Doing Jimmy Kimmel was really great, and the girl that booked that, Hannah Kyle Crichton was her name, and she was really great. Really hooked me up, gave me my first late night spot, and then but the Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon really took it to a new level for me. But it was different things. I knew how to prepare better. And ultimately, I think Jimmy Fallon's setup for stand-up is better than Jimmy Kimmel's.
Oh, okay.
And maybe Jimmy Kimmel has changed at this point, but both very nice to me. But
yeah.
It just wasn't as good of a setup.
Okay.
The Tonight Show, classic show, been around forever.
It's incredible when you hear somebody, doing something for so long. You've been doing comedy for how many years now?
I started really messing around with it in 2008.
Okay.
And then I quit drinking in 2012 and started taking comedy more seriously. So even then, that's 10 years, but probably more like, I don't know, 14. What is it, 2022?
2020.
Yeah. So I don't know how many years that is.
But when someone can grind and do something for that long, and then you really do see the payoff when you put in your whole heart into something and work
totally.
at it. That's amazing.
Well, it's like, you just got to keep, you got to have a good plan, and not necessarily, I always like to say that I don't really set goals. And I don't in the sense of like, I'm not like, all right, I'm going to be a stand-up comic by this year and I'm going to have this done, I'm going to have this done, but I do say, well, I want to do comedy. Comedy's what I want to do. So how do I work to get it? And maybe that is setting a goal. But I just feel like sometimes people set goals and then they don't allow themselves for change. Like maybe this is what you wanted to do, but along that journey, you found something else that you wanted to do more. But you're like, no, I've already set this goal, so I got to. So you keep striving for a goal that you maybe don't even want anymore. Or if you don't reach it, you beat yourself up about it. And I'm like, there's plenty of room to want to do things and not achieve it and that be okay. And I knew a guy one time, he moved to Chicago to pursue comedy. And then he ended up working at a brewery, giving tours for a brewery. And he seemed so happy doing this job. But when I was hanging with him, he seemed almost apologetic in a way that like that he wasn't doing comedy anymore. And I'm like, dude, you moved here in pursuit of comedy, but you found something that you like to do. And that's okay. And it's like, if comedy ever becomes a thing that's not fun for me, then maybe I don't do it anymore.
Yeah. Or along the journey, you find something even better for yourself.
Right.
On the way down here to LA, I was listening to your podcast. You have an amazing podcast.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
You're an amazing storyteller.
Thank you.
You're sitting in a hotel by yourself, just captivating me for an hour on the way.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate that.
And something that this leads me perfect to ask you about goals and aspirations and things. And I think something that I think would be a really cool thing for people to hear, if you're willing to share, about the really unique and awesome lens that you're able to view goals and plans and things like that, is when you're talking about through the lens of spirituality.
Yeah, well, it's like people often talk about, coming to God and what happened when they came to God and their life changed. And it's like, I've basically always been a Christian, as long as I can remember. But in 2012, when I quit drinking, I really had an awakening in a sense of starting to take it more seriously. There's a Bible verse in Isaiah that says, if ye be willing and obedient, you will eat from the good of the land. And I always just thought, wow, that's so interesting, just the idea of being obedient to God. I feel like that so often modern day Christianity is just preaches this forgiveness, which I believe in. And thankfully we have forgiveness, because I would be in a lot of trouble if not, But I feel like sometimes that message we lose, obedience, right? And so I just got into that more. I started to read the Bible in a new way and reading the Old Testament in a way that felt like it applied to me as opposed to in times past where I would read it and I would go, ooh, that's scary. Good thing I don't have to do that anymore, right? And since I've been on that journey of not drinking and not doing that, I just feel like it's just been this journey of where I'm just not really worried about things. I mean, when I ruptured my appendix, that was pretty scary. When I had a baby, that was pretty scary. But, I just feel like I'm on this journey where I'm like, I don't know. I feel like as long as I'm walking a path that God would want me to walk, then I'm not concerned about what lies ahead, because I'm like, it's already paved out. So it's going to be what it's going to be, and God is going to look out for me. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And it's just like, so I don't know. I don't know if that answers your question, but I just don't worry. That's why goals are not as important to me, because I just don't really worry about the future, because I'm like, I mean, somebody listening to my podcast long enough may say, well, you're always, you're talking about, building a cabin in the woods in case the world collapses. And I'm like, well, I'm not worried, but there's nothing wrong with planning ahead.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, that's the thing. Sometimes people mistake faith in God for not having to meet him halfway and put in work yourself.
Right.
You know.
Right. It's like, when you think about, like even when the Jews go into Egypt, right? Joseph is there and Joseph, I don't remember if Joseph had the dream or if he interpreted the king's dream. But either way, it led them to go, all right, let's store up some grains because a drought is coming, a famine is coming. And so they stored up this grains and then they were able to save Egypt and, all of, I guess, save the Jews. I mean, ultimately that ended up with them in slavery, but it did save them. So, I mean, because they did get out of it. But I mean, the point is, God all the time is like, all right, get ready. There's some stuff coming. Prepare yourself.
Okay.
But don't worry about it. I got it. But also, be prepared.
This is like off topic, but not really off topic. But when I was coming more into my faith in 2014, I would say, something that really I had not wrestled with, but had a curiosity, a thought about was that, if God is all powerful and mighty in which he is and knows what's going to happen, do we have autonomy over our lives to begin with? And I came to the realization that not only do we have autonomy, it's just God being all powerful, knowing what's going to happen, but you still have the free will to do what you want. But it is that obedience part of it too.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about free will the other day, and I just I had this thought, and I don't know, people will probably not like this thought, but people always say, well, God gives you free will, and then he sends you to hell if you don't do what he wants you to do. And I thought, well, that's interesting because it is like God is saying, all right, either you do what I'm telling you to do, or you go to hell, right? So it's like you choose God or you choose hell, but that is your free choice.
Yes.
Right? And I mean, I don't believe there are multiple paths to God, right? But just because I don't believe it doesn't mean it's not so, right? Do you know what I mean? Like I can't tell someone who grew up believing a certain thing that what they're believing is wrong. I don't know it to be true, but I'm just saying what I believe is, you go to God through Jesus, right? So, but I can't sit here and go, that is the only way, but I believe it's the only way.
It's your faith, and you're allowing people to do their thing too. And
yeah, and I always say, people go, oh, out of all the religions, you believe that yours is the right one. And I'm like, well, if I didn't believe it, then it wouldn't make sense for me to want that to be my religion. Right?
That's a great point.
Right? Yeah. Why would I go, you know what? I think Buddhism is the way, but I'm going to stick with this Christianity. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Everybody's got to go towards something or nothing, but it's their choice in the matter, I guess.
Yeah, and we all get a choice, But I mean, for me, it's like, man, I've done so many stupid things in my life. I've wrecked cars. I got shot with a BB gun in the chest. The BB is still in me. And it's like my cousin shot me when I was a little kid, and it's still in my back.
Oh my gosh.
And it's just like, I just feel like I've been protected through all of these stupid things that if I come out on the other side of that, how do I not talk about it? How do I not feel like I've been protected? It's just all a matter of strange coincidences that these wild things have happened to me that could have killed me, but I'm virtually unharmed. I mean, up until the ruptured appendix, I had never really even been to the hospital. And I feel like I deserve the ruptured appendix. I mean, I treated my body awful for, 15 years with drinking and bad food and cigarettes and various other things, So I feel like I had it coming, but I don't know. I just feel like, and then, and I wasn't even talking about it too much because I'm in entertainment and it just feels like it's not something that people talk about that much. And, but COVID hit and I just saw the whole world shut down. And I thought, if everything that I've ever worked for can essentially be taken from me in an instant, what am I doing not talking about it? If I believe that God is the ultimate all-powerful God, I believe that he'll protect me in talking about him. And if he doesn't, if I, if I get killed, right? Like so many people in the Bible have done it. It's like, it's easy to go, oh, God will protect me. But then it's like, apparently all the disciples were killed. Paul was killed. Jesus obviously was killed. So, I believe that you're then protected when the lights go out. I mean, because that's what it's like about for me. It's like there's a lot of scary things on earth, but one of the scariest things to me is like when you die and the lights go out, it's like if the atheist point of view is correct, then that's it. You're just in the grave and it's over. But if that's wrong and like you wake up in the afterlife and suddenly there's God, it's like God is scarier than the devil in a lot of ways, right? Because God is perfect, and suddenly you're faced with God, and now you know he's real, who you've believed in this whole time, and now you're face to face with him. And I just feel like that all of the sins that you were like, oh, I couldn't stop doing them, you immediately feel guilt and go, I could have stopped doing them. I just didn't want to. You know what I mean? I don't know if that makes sense.
It does. It does. And that's a very scary thought.
It's so scary.
The lights out type of thing. I'm like, I don't want that.
I mean, there's verses where it's like, depart from me, I never knew you, you workers of iniquity. You know, things like that where it's like, I do not want that to be me. And then there's verses where they talk about the outer darkness with the wailing and gnashing of teeth. People never like to hear these things, and I think that is what we need to hear, where it's like, it's like, you know, it could be, I mean, because I love everyone, right? But it's like, if you don't warn people about things that could be coming, do you really love them?
I heard someone say something like that one time. It was like, I love you, so I'm going to share this with you. You know, if I didn't, I wouldn't care about, you know.
Yeah, and I'm not about forcing things. That's why it's like my podcast, I just do it. I don't even really push my podcast all that much. I just do it, and if people listen, they listen, you know. And I'm not about forcing it on people, but I do like to share because I think it's fun. I've lived a wild life in a lot of ways, and I've come out on the other side, and I'm just thankful.
Yeah.
And I think the obedience part, a lot of times Christians will get upset with me because I'm basically saying, you know, well, you do need to do some things. And, but I just think ultimately it makes our lives better. I think God has written out a plan for us, and he goes, here's some things, do these, don't do this. And if you abstain from the things God says don't do, and if you do the things he says to do, then I just think your life's better and you're happier.
Yeah, for sure. Do you think it comes out in your comedy? Do you ever talk about spirituality, or do you think it's like just being yourself? You hope that people kind of are able to learn and hear your story through.
Yeah, I mean, I never talk about it on stage, just because in the same sense, I'm like, I don't know. I want people to just enjoy my comedy, right? Yeah. No matter what your religion is, I want you to be able to come to see the show and just laugh and have a good time. Mm-hmm. And if you stumble upon my podcast, well, you may be in for, you know, something that you weren't ready for, but maybe you were ready for it. You know? Yeah. Maybe that's why you stumbled into it.
That's amazing. Thanks for sharing that. It's really encouraging.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it. Thanks for asking about it. I mean, it is something that these days can be a little nerve-wracking to talk about because people do seem pretty anti-Christian these days. But Jesus said once, if the world hateth you, remember that it first hateth me, you know?
Okay.
So, you know.
When it comes to things like, you know, religion and politics, it's like, I just wish everybody would get along. It sounds so cheesy, but it's like, believe what you want. And then bottom line is if you're bringing your own faith or whatever morals you want to, if you're loving somebody, it's not really going to matter what side of the political spectrum you're on.
Totally. I mean, in this same cabin in Lowell, Arkansas that I was just talking about, I stayed there once before with a friend of mine from Houston, and he is Muslim. And we sat in that cabin and talked religion quite a bit. And it was a lot of fun. We didn't yell at each other. Yeah. We didn't hate each other. I mean, he didn't become a Christian and I didn't become a Muslim, but we just talked to each other.
That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
One of my best friends is Muslim too. And it's like, we get to chat about it and you're curious. Like, I have a question and it's like, cool, let's talk about it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's like there is no reason to not be getting along with people. And it's like, that's even politics. It's like, I do remember a time, you know, I'm not that old, but I remember a time when, you know, you could be liberal or you could be conservative and just hang out and talk about it and disagree and maybe even argue a bit.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you're not mad at each other.
Yeah. My grandparents were opposites and they joked all the time with each other.
Oh, yeah.
Had a good time.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I just used your line there.
Oh, yeah. No, that's great. You know, that's the funny thing, is it? Sometimes it does feel like I invented the phrase, we're having a good time. But but I didn't,
Oh my gosh, I love that. Did you come up with that just one day? You're like, I think I'm gonna say this thing.
Well, me and my wife used to say stuff like that to each other. When we were first dating, we would just, we'd be like, we're having a good time, or we have fun. We would say stuff like that. And then we said it enough to where it started coming out on stage. And then, you're doing a bad show somewhere and people aren't laughing. But one of my fears is that the audience, when the show's not going well, will look at me and think that somehow my life is hinging on this show going well. They're like, oh, it's not going well for him. I bet he's not enjoying this. So that's why it's like, for me to go, we're having a good time. Lets people know, hey, even if this show's not going well, I'm okay. Now, if they all are not going well, that's a different story. But I can handle a bad show.
That's when you start to use it as a question instead of a declaration.
Right, exactly. And I love, there's a lot of things I love to say. I like to, but you can only pull out some of them like once a show. But I love to say, is this going well? I love to do that. Right? Like mid joke, goes, is this going well? That's one of my favorite things to say. I don't know why.
Break that wall down.
Is
this resonating with anybody out there?
Yeah. I love that. I mean, and I love to, go, oh, the energy really dipped, really lost a lot. And when people go to the bathroom, I like to, act as though they're walking out of the show.
Yeah. Being up on stage and considering an attack happening on stage the other day, do you ever worry about stuff like that?
Well, I feel like it really helps ticket sales, so I might use an attack. You know what I mean? I hear.
I'll fake one with you tonight.
Yeah. I feel like Chris Rock's tickets really spiked when he got attacked by Will Smith. I could take a slap for an uptick in ticket sales.
We'll pretend I'll go up there.
Yeah.
Turn away. It'll be perfect.
Now, it seems like Dave Chappelle, it seems like he's lucky. I guess the guy had a weapon. Yes. I don't want to get stabbed.
Oh my gosh. It's a miracle that he had the weapon and didn't use it.
Yeah.
Because he had this crazy fake gun with a real knife on it.
Yeah. So,
absurd.
I don't know. But I never really worried about that. I've been in some, I came up in doing a lot of crappy venues where it's like, the threat of attack was real.
Really?
But you just...
Over jokes they don't like, or
just in general, people just, I was in an upper peninsula of Michigan, Harris, Michigan, at a casino, and there was like a big biker group in there. And it's like, they were just like, they wanted to be the show. So it was like, and there was no one going to kick them out. So I'm like, I'm just joking with them. And it's like, and I would make jokes with them about them ruining the show, and they would laugh. And it's like... and I would say, well, clearly no one's going to kick you out of here. So, and it's like, you just go along with it because it's like, what am I going to do? Like threaten them? Yeah. No one's going to protect me. So I'm like, I'm not getting paid enough to make sure this show's going that well. So you just work through it. I was in one place and I kept going back and forth with some audience members, and I watched the club manager back out of the club. Like he's the only guy to deal with anything, and he takes off.
Oh, it was getting dicey, or?
Yeah, and he's like, I'm not helping you. But it was, at the end of the day, it's all fine. I don't really worry about it. But
yeah.
I also, I have good management and agents now that they don't really put me in those positions.
Yeah.
So.
Good, I'm glad I got sussed out, and it was a clear, Vancast is good to go.
Who knows? You could kill me in a minute, but.
I would say people say that at least once every episode.
Yeah.
Or I had Zainab Johnson, she signs their picture. Thanks for not kidnapping me.
Oh, yeah. Well, we're on the streets of L.A. You could kill me, or I could get out of this van and get killed right out in the street. Who knows?
It'd make me feel better. You could kill me right now.
Yeah,
just make me feel better.
That is true. I could kill you. We could kill, who knows?
Crowd work, though, is that something you enjoy typically?
I don't ever try to do crowd work. Okay. I never go out like I'd like to do crowd work. But if people, I like fun crowd work. Like if there's some audience member makes a noise, does something, I like to be aware of what's going on. I like to acknowledge things. But yeah, I don't like sometimes if a table is just talking to each other, that's one of my worst kind of thing, because it's like, then I have to become the teacher. Like if the club won't take care of it, like sometimes I can just say a little something to them and then the club's on it. The best clubs are on it without you even having to say anything.
For sure.
Or I hate a heckler that's really close to the stage. because they can say things to me that the audience can't hear. So I can respond to it, but the audience doesn't know they're saying that to me.
Comedy is definitely a muscle, because if you're like in a situation to have crowd work, like I always think of that when I'm like watching someone do crowd work. I'm like, gosh, their muscle to do, improv is just so strong that they can pull something out and say it right there.
Yeah.
Do you think it comes from just your ability to, again, be good at storytelling and come up with thoughts and ideas on the fly, kind of?
Yeah, I think it's different for different people. I mean, there's a guy in Nashville that I know, Chance Willie, and he is one of the sharpest, quickest guys I've ever seen. I mean, it is amazing to me, because I want to say that I think it just comes from, for me, it comes from just doing comedy all the time, being on stage all the time. I just get used to it, and I'm able to do it pretty well. But Chance is probably not even doing he's definitely not doing comedy as much as me. I mean, he's in there, he's working it, but I'm doing comedy more than most people probably. I'm on the road constantly. And, he is one of the sharpest people. So I don't know where it comes from. I mean, Jeff Ross was here. I just saw him. He's really great at crowd work and just roasting people.
Yeah.
I think it just depends on the person. I mean, and it just goes back to what I was saying before. I mean, there's comics I've met on the road that no one's ever heard of and probably never will hear of them. And they are like dynamite at crowd work.
What's your writing process, by the way?
I don't really sit down and write things anymore. If an idea comes to me that I really like, I'll just mark it down in my phone and I'll just try it on stage. And if it gets a laugh, then I'll try to expand on it.
Okay.
If it doesn't get a laugh, I may do it a few times, try to word it differently to see what I can get out of it. And then if it never works, I'll just abandon it.
Okay.
And maybe come back to it later. I mean, I have a new closer that I'm doing now, and there's a little joke within the larger joke that was something I wrote years ago that it would always get a little bit of a laugh, but I never had a place for it. And now it's like it fits perfectly in this bit. So I never try to throw them away, but they may not just work, just yet.
Okay, got it.
But it's like I used to sit down and write word for word. I would write everything word for word and try to go up and just say it that way. But what I found, at least for me, is I'm better at writing on stage as long as I have an idea. I'm not good at just winging it, but as long as I have an idea of what I'm going to say, I can throw a new joke right in the middle and try to work it. And then I just have a good memory for remembering how I said it. And then I'll just try to work it from there. But I used to write it word for word, and then I would go up. And if the joke didn't work, I had a hard time changing the wording because in my mind, I'm like, no, this is the funniest way.
Again, not a comedian, but, seeing your passion for it and seeing other people doing it and loving it, I'm like, gosh, I would love to try like an open mic night and suck at it, but like still try for the fun of it.
You should try it. You should try it just for fun.
Yeah.
I mean, open mics, depending on where you go, I mean, they're the worst.
Really?
It can really be awful.
And make you feel bad?
Yeah, where it's like I know people that are very successful in other areas of life, and then they decide that they want to try comedy. And then they'll be pretty funny or whatever, or maybe not funny at all, but they basically are failing at comedy. And it feels like it takes a toll on them in a way that they feel like somehow they're not good enough now. And I'm like, you're already successful. Just because you're not successful in this new thing it means nothing. You tried something, it didn't work, move on. I know a guy that's a doctor, I know a guy that's an architect, that their comedy, it always made me laugh, but it never really took off in any kind of way. And it felt like they were really beating themselves up. And I'm like, dude, you're fine. You're still making more money than everybody in the open mic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You have a wife, you have a family. Just enjoy yourself.
Yeah. It's like, again, I would try not doing it to try to get famous or whatever would make money, but just to like see what it's like. I like trying stuff once just to say I did it.
Yeah.
See what the experience is like.
Yeah, absolutely. You got some podcast content then,
That's true too.
Like, I did stand up last night.
I like doing stuff like that in life where you just do stuff because you'll have a story at the end of it.
Yeah.
Nothing dangerous or crazy, but like I'll go to a thing that I didn't want to go to because I know I'll see people that I like or meet new people.
Yeah.
Even if you're tired a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, like when I do something like this festival, right, there's always parties and I don't drink. So I hate going to parties, right? Because I don't drink and it's like, drinking really can loosen you up. Even if you're not an alcoholic, 1 or 2 drinks can loosen you up and you can talk. But I'll force myself to go. And then I'm like, oh, I'm glad I came.
Yeah.
I'll see people I know and we'll talk. And I'm like, actually, this was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's like, and you get maybe to network too a little bit. You never know who's there type of deal.
Yeah. When I was in Bridgetown in Portland, that's the first time I'd ever been to a state with legal weed, I think. And, and I like to get into weed a little bit. I don't do too much of it, but I'd never been in a state where it was legal. So I thought, this is fun. So I went and bought some. And, after my shows, I would try to have a little and go to the after parties. And depending on the weed, it hits you differently. Like one time I hit it and I was like, I'm very social. I'm feeling good. But I remember one night my shows were done. I was like, I'm going to hit this weed and I'm going to go to the after party. And I hit it a couple of times. It hit me in a weird way. I remember I walked into the party. I made one complete circle through the party, walked out the door, Ubered back to my hotel. I was like, I can't do it.
What were you feeling?
I don't know. There's no way to describe it. Only people that have been high and known how it's like, I can only relate it to what people say about anxiety, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't really get anxiety, but from what people tell me, that's how I feel when I'm too high.
Okay.
It's like, if I go to a party and I'm completely sober, I could hang out in the corner and be fine. Yeah. I don't even care if no one comes up to talk to me. I'm perfectly capable of entertaining myself. But if I'm high and I'm in the corner, I'm like, oh man, you're in the corner. You're looking like a loser over here. You know what I mean? I'm like, you better get out of here. You better go talk to somebody or just go home. What are you doing?
You get in your head.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. But then, oh my gosh, there's like this guy moving a dumpster behind the van. I saw him doing it earlier and I was setting the TV up and I'm like, he's about to run into the van right now. Now he knows what he's doing.
That'd be quite the podcast content if the van got hit.
I was making food here one time in LA. I was visiting some friends and I'm making food parked in a perfectly quiet street. And suddenly somebody backed up into the van.
Oh no.
And everything fell over and I got jolted back. It was the craziest experience. It felt like you were in a car accident, but you're not driving anywhere.
Oh yeah.
And I get out. And even, so I was for sure not driving because I had all the blinds up even. I get out and the guy is out of his car and he goes, did you just hit me? And I go, don't even try to do that. I go, I got the curtains up. What are you talking about? And I was like, I don't think there's any damage. Can I just, get your insurance or whatever? And he just got insurance like that day. It was a really bizarre situation, but I was like, there's no damage. But I'm like always thinking about that when I'm sleeping. I don't want to wake up dead type of thing. Like if someone hits the van while I'm sleeping, it's a little scary, but.
Unbelievable that the guy gets out and goes, did you just hit me?
Yeah. Unbelievable. I'll never forget that. I'm like, yeah, I did. No. How much of your comedy would you say is based off of your based off of your life? Are they all based in reality, would you say?
Yeah, I would say it's all based in reality. I mean, there, some stuff's just observational things, but if it's family stuff, I mean, it is based in reality. Yeah. It may not be a joke may not even be true for the person I'm saying it is, but it would be some character in my life.
Got it.
But it's like, I don't know, if I'm doing a set, sometimes it's like, and I have a million characters, but if I could just, like I've put in several things on my mom. My mom loves to come see my comedy because most of the times I'm talking about my mom, it's not true or it's an exaggeration. Okay. But she'll know who I'm talking about, but I've just put that on her.
Oh, okay. And she's cool with that.
Yeah, she doesn't care.
That's awesome. So you're also then really a country fan, a country music fan.
I love country music, yeah.
Do you have any favorite artists?
Well, there's a guy I've been listening to lately called Jesse Daniel. And
I went to high school with him.
Oh, yeah?
He's from my town.
Oh, that's amazing.
You're kidding. Yeah.
I just talked to him today on Instagram.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, you have to tell him you did the Vancast.
Yeah.
What the heck?
I know. Well, that's amazing. Yeah, I've been listening to his albums on Spotify. I really like them. We follow each other on Instagram. I don't really even know how that happened, but I think he's going to send me a hat.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I was just showing my friend who I'm visiting down here from LA. We all went to high school together. I wasn't friends with Jesse, but we knew each other.
Oh, yeah.
And he was doing a homecoming show. He was on tour and he did a homecoming show in Santa Cruz. And he played a song. We're from this small town. It's a valley called San Lorenzo Valley. And in the song, he goes, son of the San Lorenzo. And we're like,
oh, I know that song. Yeah.
San Lorenzo Valley is where I'm from.
That's awesome.
What a small world.
Wow, that is crazy. I've been following him on Instagram for a while, and I never really listened to his music. So I just went on Spotify the other day and pulled it up, and I was like, oh, this is great.
Yeah.
I like him. You know, I like basically all 90s country, and I feel like Jesse has a good 90s country feel. You know, and I like, Colter Wall.
Love him.
You know, I like old Jason Isbell. I feel like he's gone in a bit of a different direction. He's a little more folky now.
Okay.
But I like older, like, what was the one, I don't know, before the Nashville sound. That was the album where I was like, but everything before that, really great.
Love it. Okay.
Yeah. Who was the guy? He has this song called Little Feathered Indians or something.
Tyler,
yeah, really great.
love him. I was going to ask you if you liked him.
Yeah, really great stuff. And there is another guy, Paul Cawthon or Paul, he has a song called like My Gospel or something like that, but I don't think it's religious at all.
Yeah.
A lot of these guys will get a little, they'll make comments or get a little anti-religious for me where I'm like, it feels like it's trying to push back on classic country type stuff. So I still like the music.
I love that.
Yeah.
And Jesse Daniels has an amazing story too. I don't know if you know much of his backstory at all.
No, I don't.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's quite open about it, but he wasn't doing country music. He was like a rocker. And then I think, just had some tough times in life and got sober and started doing country music, and he's killing it. It's amazing.
Classic Alan Jackson song, He's Gone Country.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Well, it's like California, is really known for good country. I mean, Merle Haggard is California. I mean, I guess he's originally from Oklahoma maybe, but but I think he lived in California, got his start in California. I don't know. He talks about being an Okie from Muskogee, and his dad was that song was based on his dad.
Okay.
So I thought he maybe was born there, but I don't know.
Proud to be.
Yeah.
That was my introduction to country. Me and my dad would drive around his old beater pickup truck listening to the Merle Haggard Greatest Hits cassette over and over.
Yeah.
That's it.
I mean, Merle Haggard's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, the old stuff, I mean, I like 90s country as a whole, but like Merle Haggard is, it's unbelievable.
Oh my gosh. Do you have a favorite song?
It would be hard, but I think there's an album called Back to the Bar Rooms, and he has a song called Leonard on there that I really like a lot.
Yeah, it's about his friend who passed away, right?
Yeah, it's about a guy, I guess his name was, I forget, his name wasn't Leonard, but Leonard was, I guess his name was Leonard, and he just, I guess it was Tommy Collins was the guy he wrote it about. And I don't know if he died or not, but he just kind of wrote a song about him. And I don't know, I heard it one day on YouTube, and then I went and bought the album Back to the Bar Rooms. And it's like, it's hard to say with Merle Haggard, right? Because it's like, there's all of these amazing songs, Fight Inside of Me. On my Netflix, I had my intro song was Working Man's Blues.
Yeah.
So these were all songs that I listened to my entire life. And then as an adult, I hear the song Leonard, and I'm like, oh, I love this song. And I'm like, this is like my favorite. But I'm like, is it better than, I Think I'll Just Stay Here and Drink?
Love that song.
Yeah, I doubt it. Okay. But it's like, I spent so much time listening to I Think I'll Just Stay Here and Drink that it doesn't have the same impact now. I haven't listened to Leonard, a million times like I have some of the others.
Yeah. I Think I'll Just Stay Here and Drink. There's like not that many words, and it's just love the jamming in that song.
Yeah, it's such a jam. And Merle Haggard always has a lot of jams in there. Horns and different things that a lot of especially new country. It's just new country is so disappointing to me. Now, new mainstream country, obviously. Okay. But it's like, it's so disappointing to me. There's no steel guitar. There's no fiddle. Rare. I went to the what is it, in Vegas, they had an award ceremony, ACMs.
Okay.
And I got to go to that, and it was super fun to go. But it's like, the best was Chris Stapleton, and I feel like I get a little worn out on Chris Stapleton, But the best thing was, it's like, I don't know, he just did a good song. He had a real jam. And everybody else, it felt like you're like, mild rock stars. I'm not saying they're bad musicians. I'm not saying the music they're doing is bad, but it's just not country to me.
Sure, right. Is his song, You Should Probably Leave, is that country to you?
I don't know that I've heard that one. The one he did was a song he wrote about the guy who shot people in Vegas at a country award show.
Oh, I don't know that song.
I don't know it either, but he just performed it, and it was,
wow.
About this guy.
Okay.
And it was pretty powerful. And then Kelly Clarkson sang I Will Always Love You by Dolly Parton, but basically sang the Whitney Houston version. And it was very good. And Dolly Parton was the host, but it was like, overall, I don't know. I do the Opry a lot.
I was going to ask you about that. That's incredible. That's a big deal.
It is. It's so great to get to do the Opry. I've done it, I don't know, close to 20 times now.
What the heck?
And I know, it's amazing. And I see a lot of people that come through there. I just met Clint Black not too long ago, and I see a lot of people come through there that are really good. And then I also see people coming through, and I'm like, you're obviously a talented musician, but it's just not country to me.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's like, maybe that has been throughout the entire history of, it's like, I've heard people say that in the time when Ronnie Millsap came out, that they didn't really consider Ronnie Millsap country.
Oh, interesting.
But now enough times pass where we look back and we go, well, obviously this is country.
Yeah.
But like, apparently the Charlie, who was it? Charlie, now I can't think of it, not Charlie Daniels, but Charlie, I don't know, but he... John Denver won like Artist of the Year, and Charlie burned the card. He lit the card on fire, but in protest of saying that John Denver wasn't country.
I wonder who that is.
It's he sang but when you let what is it? Behind Closed Doors.
What's the song called?
Behind Closed Doors.
Who sings Behind Closed Doors?
I don't know why I can't think of his name.
Matt Fischel?
Oh, no.
That's not
They're
it.
trying to steal it from
Yeah.
Let's look it up.
Yeah, it's going to bug me.
I can find it.
But I'm glad that you are a country fan.
I mean, country music's the best.
Yeah.
I mean, I like all kinds of music, but I always say my second favorite music is classic rock. Right?
Okay.
Because I'm like, that's as close as you can get. Charlie Rich.
Oh, okay.
That's as close as you can get to country.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's like Leonard Skinner is not country, but it's like, it's what country would be if they just, jammed it up a bit. Leonard Skinner, everybody just, it's like, they got 6 albums, I think, before Ronnie Van Zant died. And it's like, everybody knows the hits, but if you listen to those albums, I mean, it's full of great songs, and they're all really fun. A lot of people just think of them as this redneck band, and I'm like, they're so far from being that.
Oh, yeah. There's plenty of other redneck bands.
Yeah, I mean, they jam they're so good. Like they said that Ronnie Van Zant would make the band practice their jams.
Wow.
Instead of just going out, like, say, the Allman Brothers, it would just jam. They would make them practice their solos. And I watched a documentary, they were saying Freebird, originally, the jam in Freebird was to give Ronnie Van Zant an opportunity to rest his voice. And then it got longer and longer and longer.
Fantastic song. We would listen to that every day before baseball practice in the locker room. And now it's like stuck in my head perpetually. But it's a good song to have stuck in your head.
The song that stays stuck in my head is Jason Isbell with the Drive-By Truckers, the song called Outfit.
Okay, I'll have to listen to that.
And it just stays stuck in my head.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
So country and rock. You got a rock collection, I bet, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, well, I do.
Y'all watch the Netflix.
Yeah, I do go pick up rocks quite a bit. I do have quite a bit of rocks. Tennessee's limestone everywhere in Nashville. So whenever they build new houses, they drill up and all these rocks come up. And I always go pick up rocks for my flower beds at home.
Oh, okay. That's smart.
Yeah.
Is it stealing those rocks?
Yeah, I guess I'm stealing. I don't know.
From Mother Earth, I guess. But,
yeah. Yeah, I mean, they were just in the earth. They got dug up. I'm just giving them a new home. Yeah,
exactly. Relocating.
Yeah.
You want to play a game?
Yeah, sure.
I got burning questions.
Okay.
This is a segment. This will be the second time I've done this segment. I found these cards at Target, okay?
Okay.
And it was like, what does it say on the back? I should explain. I didn't really explain it last time. It just said, ever want to really get to know someone? That sounds a little weird, but they're superficial questions like, do you consider yourself an introvert or extrovert? I had to take some cards out because I was going through the deck and it's like, who in this room do you want to kiss? And I'm like, that's not really for
That'd
the
be
show.
A weird question. Yeah.
That's not a good Vancast question.
Right.
So burning questions. Feel free to pick a card and
All right.
well,
I'm
gonna fan them out for you.
All right. Oh yeah. All right. I'll go right here. Boom.
What do we got?
What is your definition of a perfect life? Well, that's interesting, but I think that the perfect life is, doing, I mean, it's like we all have to have a job, right? So it's like you got to work. There's no way to escape it unless you're homeless, and that doesn't seem like the perfect life. So I think finding a thing that you like to do, finding a partner that you want to be with, and honestly, I never would have said this till about a year ago, but having a baby, and then you have your family and you have a job that you enjoy. I think that's the perfect life. It has nothing to do with things or money. I mean, obviously you need money to live. You need a house. You need in this day and age, you need a car. But it's like the perfect life is having a job that you enjoy and a family to share your life with.
It's amazing, the simple things.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, things can get complicated in this life.
Yeah, it's like I used to sell pesticides, and I talk about it all the time. But my biggest problem with the job wasn't the job itself. It's like I hated my boss for a long time. I hated the way the company treated us. It wasn't the job itself. The job itself wasn't a bad job.
Grass is sometimes greener.
Yeah. I do have someone that's picking me up at 3.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no,
And I feel like I've sweated a bit.
I want to let you get ready for your show. Can I ask you one last
Yes, you can.
Vancast related question?
Yes.
The thing I always ask.
Okay.
I hate to keep you here longer.
No, this is great. No, I just am. I'm
Very
just,
brief.
Yes.
I could turn the heater on if you want. Really crank it up.
Well, yeah, I mean, let's go all in. You know what I mean? We got the walls for a sauna. Let's go all in.
It feels like a sauna in here, everybody. Someone asks you, I want to do comedy. I want to do that as a job. I want to make that my career. Do you get that question, and what do you tell those folks?
Well, I did a podcast. My podcast is called the We're Having a Good Time podcast. And in season 2, episode 1 through 10, I did 10 episodes on how to become a comic. But I just think if people say that's what they want to do, it's like, well, just get ready to really work for it, because there are shortcuts, right? The obvious shortcut is, become famous on Instagram or YouTube or TikTok, and you'll probably get booked somewhere. But if you actually want to be a good comic, it's just going to take a long time. You just got to settle in. If you're married with a family, it's going to be hard because your family's not going to understand why you want to go out and do comedy every night at a bar for free, or for why you want to travel out of town for $50. So it takes a long time. I mean, once you finally reach it, there actually is money to be made, and that's nice. But it's like it takes a long time. But you just got to be honest with yourself. You got to go out. You got to do comedy. If it goes well, feel good about it, but keep working. If it doesn't go well, be honest with yourself, but don't beat yourself up. You know, just go, all right, that didn't go well. So because it's like I see comics that are not self-aware. They bomb and they go, crushed it, or they crush it and they go, bombed. And neither of those are good. I think it's easier if you're harder on yourself. It's easier to get better, but then you're never happy. You're always mad. You're always like, I could have did better. And it's like, you're always going to feel like that. Every show, just about, you're going to think, well, I could have, I wish I'd have done this or done this. But I just think being happy with what you're doing and just focus in and know that it's going to take a long time, like years, long time.
Yeah. If your heart's in it, go for it.
Yeah, I mean, people want to come out and they do comedy for 6 months and they're like, how do I start getting booked at clubs? And it's like, there are people that start getting booked at clubs at 6 months in, but chances are you're not going to get booked. You may get booked to do a showcase or something like that, but that I don't know that that's always good. You let the club see you when you're not that good.
Yeah, it's amazing to see you living that out, and nothing easy is really ever worth it anyway, right?
That's true. That is true.
But I really want to thank you for coming on Nick's Vancast.
Yeah.
You got a fun show coming up tonight, right?
Yeah, I'm at the Hollywood Improv. I have Brian Simpson, who did the Standups with me. I have Laura Peak, who lives here, who's a friend from Nashville. Amy Silverberg, who I did Just for Laughs with, and then David Spade is going to do the show.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, just congratulations on all your success.
Yeah,
Thanks
thank
for
you.
sharing your insight. And I'm glad we got to connect and do this. I think we had a good time.
We did have a good time. Yes, we did.
Dusty Slay, everybody.
All right. Thank you.
Feel like I'm at the tippy top of my game, looking down at the raft. Confidence, come on now.